Beautiful day, dear changemakers, whoever is here at the Global Empowerment Summit. I'm coming back. This is the afternoon session and the afternoon time, spending it with amazing experts, just like Cheryl. I will come back to Cheryl very, very soon. But before we start our conversation, please don't forget we have the Treasure Hunt application. It's a new thing that we announced a few weeks ago with Solworxs, the company that is sponsoring us. And if you see the QR code on the top of this screen here, if you have a free ticket, you scan this QR code, it takes you to the application where you can play with us. How does it go? You just get the free ticket, you register, then you check this QR code with your phone, and it will take you to the application where you can give feedbacks, you can share your aha moments, you can rewatch the replays, and you can also watch the live shows. And in the meantime, you can interact with us through your comments, through the game itself. We have 5 different ways how you can engage, and you will earn points. And once you earn points, you will get on the leaderboard. And in the 31st of October, I will announce the winners. There will be 5 winners who can win 500 USD value coaching programs, and there will be also someone who will win a 200 USD package from Solworxs, who was the developer of the application. So remember, 5 times 500 USD value coaching program for 5 lucky winners. If you are with us until the 31st of December, you rewatch the sessions, you give us feedback, get on the leaderboard and win. So today, after all these updates and announcements, I'm introducing you to Cheryl. Cheryl was already with us for the last 5 weeks, and here she is again about an amazing topic, another amazing and interesting topic, which is empathy in leadership. So Cheryl, let's just start. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm perfectly fine. As I just said, a little bit of a lazy day because it's too hot.
How does a lazy day look like with you, Cheryl? Just let me know how, and the audience, how does it look like?
Otherwise, I'm like very active, so I keep myself preoccupied. And as you know, I multitask, so I start my day with seeing that I prepare breakfast for the family, and then a little bit of meditation and yoga, which is my sense of feeling good about myself. And then get on to my daily routine of going on LinkedIn, connecting with all my customers, doing follow-ups, and then taking a 1 hour break, going to cook the lunch, and then have lunch, serve everybody, then come back again. So the lazy day is like you're not even in the mood of cooking much, so you just make a one simple dish, and then you just laze it out, and you're not really interested to, sort of get on LinkedIn and do the other business development. So that's how my lazy day is. And I think in Malaysia, normally I see people are not on a Friday, there is less activity.
Oh,
I don't
that's
know
true.
why. Yeah, probably because it leads towards the weekend. So Friday, and then people go for their prayers, and so that whole 2 hours. So I think by default, Friday becomes a little bit unproductive. For the over 4 years I've been in Malaysia, I've seen Friday becoming a little unproductive after 12:31.
And how is this multitasking for you? I really wanted to ask this because, as you already mentioned, so there are 2 groups of people. One of them believes in multitasking and says it's possible, and one other side of the people say that multitasking is not existing because it's just tasks that you do after each other, and you just say it's multitasking, but you can't. What is your perspective on this?
So see, my perspective is that once you're still cooking and you're cutting an onion and you get a call and you still have to answer that call because it's a business call, and you are still attending to that call. So you're multitasking because one day you're projecting your mind in doing something which you're already doing, which is cooking, and you're in the midst of it, so you cannot stop it. Something's on the fire, etc. And then you're also talking to your customer simultaneously, but you're not losing focus in both the things. So that is called multitasking. Any task that is done more than one task is called multitasking. So some people feel that it's one task after the other. One task after the other is not multitasking, basically, because you complete one task and then you go to the next task. When you are doing a task and in between you get up to do something else, that is multitasking. So that's what I do. I am working and then I know that it's lunchtime, so I have to get up, go prepare lunch, and then, at the same time I take my phone down. So I'm continuously on my calls and whatever I have to do. So that's multitasking, yes.
Thank you very much for clarifying this. For everyone, it means something totally different. So
Right.
I'm really curious about people's perspective, and I'm always asking something like this. So, Cheryl, you mentioned that you are originally not from Malaysia, or you moved to Malaysia. So
Yeah.
how is it? Explain a little bit further. What's your story?
So yes, been in India for the majority of my life. So studied in India, was born in Goa, a beautiful place. Everybody knows of
I
Goa.
want to go
Even if
there to dance.
they, even if they don't know India, they will know that Goa exists somewhere in India, right? So I was born in Goa, and then of course got up in Mumbai. Did my entire education there. Worked for about almost 6 years of my life in Mumbai, and never thought I would shift to any place globally. So had the mindset of always being in India, and that's why they say that do not limit yourselves, right? You never know if you expand your mind and expand your horizon, you never know where you will reach. And so I think that happened to me from India to US directly, and then from US to Malaysia. So it's been a very interesting journey for me. And on the way, I learned, different cultures. I learned how to adapt to different styles of people. Because when you're in one country for a long time, it becomes very difficult for you to adjust and adapt to another country's culture, the way they look at things, the way they dress, or the way they eat, the food habits, everything. It's a total change. It's not just one part of your life, your entire aspect of your life changes. So, yes, it has taught me a lot. And in that learning, I feel I've grown. Because when you meet different people, you grow. And when you are in one country for a long time, basically what happens is you are only with that culture and that country. So your exposure to the world is a bit limited, unless in today's day, yes, the Zooms and the Teams have allowed it. But still, culture is to be experienced when you are actually living there. You know.
And I think slowly we are arriving to our topic, because I believe what you just said, that you learn to if you move to another country, then
Yes.
also it's attached to your empathy skills, and you
Right.
start to accept other cultures, diversity. Like Malaysia is such a diverse place
Oh
with all these
yes.
cultures together.
Yes.
So let's get to the topic. So your
Sure.
topic today, what you chose, was empathy in leadership, right? So
Yes.
Cheryl, what does empathy mean for you, and why is it different than emotional intelligence? And let's just set first the context straight. So tell me about it a little bit more.
Yeah. So basically, I would say that first of all, let's get into the main factor where people try to sort of misunderstand the concept between sympathy and empathy, right? So sympathy is basically, you are relating to the feelings of that person, and you're trying to actually feel that you are in that situation, right? But in empathy, what happens is to understand the need of another person, and to understand how your feelings can impact that person, and also at the same time how it can impact a perception. And empathy is a part of emotional intelligence, right? You cannot actually differentiate them. So when I say it is a part of emotional intelligence, because it is your self awareness to understand another person, right? So unless you understand your person and understand your emotions and how you are going to relate to another person, it becomes difficult. So I always feel empathy is a part or a subset of emotional intelligence.
Okay, so it's part of emotional intelligence,
Yes.
but it's not the same like sympathy.
No.
And if you want to give a few examples, maybe that will also help the people to differentiate between the two, like
Yeah.
life examples of sympathy
Exactly.
and life
Exactly.
examples of empathy.
So when I talk about sympathy, if you see, a hungry child on the street, I know you're feeling that emotion that, uh, I see a hungry child. So immediately you might go into your pocket and, maybe give some money, or you'll go and buy some food, and you're immediately sympathizing with the person because you're trying to meet the need of that person, right? In empathy, you don't, if you see a hungry child, you want to do something more than that. You actually want to be in that situation and understand what that child must be going through. So am I just going to give that one meal and say, okay, my job is done? That is like you're sympathizing. But empathy is when I look at a bigger picture. So am I trying to get into the shoes of that person, feel what that child is feeling, and can I do something better for that child? Instead of leaving him or her on the street, can I find a home? Can I find to put him or her in a place? So it's a long thinking. They're small goals, but it is to see that you envision something for a better for the betterment of a person. So that is what is empathy, where you try to be into the feeling and try to do something on a larger aspect than just sort of doing something at an immediate basis, and then you don't even remember about the thing, or it's just forgotten from your mind. Yeah.
Nice definition, very nice. So thank you. Now we are setting the contest straight so everyone knows what we are talking about. Now comes the
Right.
why. Why is it important today to have this skill and to be empathetic? And then we can get to the leadership. But in general, in life first, why is it important to have this skill?
Sure. So, first of all, it's very important, and there is a need. We need to understand each other, right? Otherwise, you and me wouldn't have been talking here today, right? So, for any person, you don't have to develop empathy, because lots of people have asked, do you have to develop it? Is it an innate thing? It is an innate thing. See, we all are born with qualities, with personality traits, right? In a recent research which was conducted, they say the mirror neuron said that every person is just not self-centric, and they don't do things only for their personal gain. They have something which is called a relation or an attachment. So in that sense, we all human beings have an attachment or have a relationship with everybody around us. It could be a love relationship, it could be a hate relationship, or it could be any sort of relationship. But as a human being, we all have empathy. But most of the times, environment and situations don't let you actually showcase that sympathy, or they don't let you actually bring forward that part of yours, that empathetic part of yours. So I think it is, in today's world, it is really very important. I think the first skill that everybody should put it as a KPI, or even as your KRA, that you show at least one instance where you have shown the sign of empathy, understanding your colleague, understanding what he or she is going through, putting yourself into that situation and saying, if you were there, what would have happened? So I think it is very important. And I think the second most important part of empathy is to listen. And most of the time, you realize that we don't listen. You know, People tend to forget that the aspect of listening really improvises so many things. And one main quality of empathy is learn to listen. Because unless you listen, you won't understand the person. And I think most of the time, even as a coach or as a trainer, I make it a point that, I give the person on the opposite side to talk more. Even when I'm conducting a training session, I try to make it so interactive that people talk more. I get their feeling and I get to understand what is it that they really want or they need. And that gives me a clarity, and I can do a better training or even a better coaching. So yes, it is required in today's day, especially in our generation that we are talking today, the young and the wise, right? And I was listening to one of the talks yesterday, what Jiva was giving, and she said so well, right, that the kids of today, the generation of today, they're so tech savvy, and they're so much on their tech, on their iPhones, or on their laptops, or on their iPads, or on the PlayStation, that they've actually lost what is the connection to human beings sometimes. And so that also leads you to being less empathetic. So I think one way is, of course, it's a very important factor to be learned in today's day, at least in the world of today, because it's a
Thank
very
you.
competitive market out there.
It is, it is. I just want to say hi to Anis. Hi, Anis. Thank you for being here. I see you are very active today and being in the workshop. So please, please keep on following us. We have many other workshops coming up. Don't forget, today we have another workshop also for families and parents, because Teacher Keen is coming up. So if you have kids, then that's a workshop to go to. And let's go further, explore empathy. You mentioned listening.
Yes.
That is so important today. And we mentioned also the generation. So can you lead us through the different generations, how they are listening differently, and how is their empathy different generation by generation? Because I remember we had these many intimate moments with our grandparents, very up
Right.
close.
Yes.
When we were learning the social cognition, we were learning how to interact with each other. We learned communication, we learned respect. We had live people in front of us, and I believe the last generation at the end of the other other timeline, they have less of this interaction. So tell us a little bit about the timeline and how empathy is changing throughout these generations and how listening is changing.
Yes. So I think I won't say during our days because we still, are in that mode of saying that we are neither old nor young, but we are somewhere in the middle, right? So I'm talking about the generation that has crossed 60 and have been in leadership roles or have been in whatever type of role. I have because you were and in those days because you were more into a joint family than the nuclear family. Things were becoming very, people try to understand each other, adapt with each other, do things that were more, revolving around the entire family. And that made you realize that you've got to understand the other person and try to see how you can adapt well with the other person. As the generations started changing and as people started getting more into nuclear families and started disassociating or started traveling across various countries with various cities, the formation of a joint family actually changed and went into a nuclear family. Now, during those times, again, the family became secluded from the main section of a joint family, and then you became just a part of your family. Everything became a part of your happening, and it was just surrounding between you as a family. That's the mother, father, and the kids. So the grandparents and all were just met once in a way because in a nuclear family, you're so busy, both parents working, or even if the mother or the father is working, it so happens that one becomes the caretaker in the house. So keeping all this in mind, yes, it does become the way how you look and the way how you adapt to situations outside the nuclear family. Also, the perspective changes. And then finally comes your millennials and your Gen Next. So the millennials, I think, still incorporated or took some values or some understanding of what empathy meant. But the generation of today, I'm not saying they don't have it. The only thing here is that because they are on a fast track and because they are in a very competitive world, they're always racing. And because of this nature of racing, they tend to not focus so much on understanding the needs of another person or listening to what the other person has or putting themselves into the perspective of another person. And so these are the various changes that you will see as time grows. But I think this whole pandemic, right, has also taught, I think, the generation of today also that you need to be there for each other. And so I've seen that a lot of people, even whether it's businesses, whether you are in competition with each other, do not believe in the word of competition anymore. They're more into, collaboration and more into saying that, okay, let us see how we can help each other.
I really love this idea of bringing it so much together that
Yeah.
the more people I'm talking to, the more they are saying that it's at the end that it doesn't matter whether it's generation this or that. It's just the understanding and listening. What you mentioned also, that we have to
Right.
understand how different we are, and once we understand the difference, like Jiva was telling yesterday about the social intelligence, like
Right.
if we really improve our social intelligence, our emotional intelligence, and our IQ also, so all of
Yes.
these three, then the more you are going up on the ladder, the more you will understand the world around you, and the more you have this kind of a big picture, and you can finally get rid of the labels, and you can finally just be like without any expectations and without any judgment, and then just
You
see
are
the
right.
people who are they, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, so let's go further on the steps, and let's explore empathy on another way, which is the level of leadership, because that's something different. As a leader, you have a team, and a lot of things are coming in the market, like coach, leader as a coach, agile mindset, problem solving, social intelligence, and so many things. So how does empathy fit leadership, and why is it so important for companies?
Yeah. So I think basically, even if you talk about the older generation, right, I don't think people ever thought of this word empathy. It's become a very key focus area of today, right? In the olden days, you just exhibited it in the way you behaved, and there was no tag word for it as empathy. because you grew up in a certain surrounding, your environment was always telling you that you have to adapt and adjust, you have to listen to others, and you have to be mindful of how you speak to others or how you relate to others. And so these all reasons already made you have that feeling of empathy, right? And as we grew, and I told you, as we started disintegrating and started moving to different parts of the world, we all started getting into very small nuclear families, and everything started going the way we just wanted to adapt to the new culture. But what happens for leaders? I feel that leadership, if you talk in today's world, whether you were a leader, say, about 10 years back, or you're a leader right now, I think it is very important for a leader to understand basically what does his organization need, right? Or what am I supposed to give the organization? So I don't expect a CEO every day to sit and listen to 10 people or 15 people, right? I think what the main person or the leadership, like when I talk about the CEO or the managing director of the company, who's basically responsible for everybody below him, has to create his second in line to understand and to relate to their people in terms of empathy, right? Because I don't expect a CEO to sit with 20 people every day and understand and listen to them, then it is a disaster for the business, right? But I think he or she can actually train people down the line, down the level, saying that this is how you can actually pass on the feeling of being the feeling of empathy. How can you showcase this feeling? How can you understand people? How can you listen, or how can you be there for them, right? The most important thing what people want to know today is how can you be there for them. And when you say be there for them, is do you empower them? Do you allow them to make decisions? Do you just create a perception of a person in your mind, and then you say, okay, the person is this way, and I know that person will not change irrespective. But that is your perception, because that's the story you have formed in your head or in your mind about that person. But if you're a true leader, and if you really believe that you want this organization to grow along with the people, and you want the people to grow within the organization, that it becomes very important, first of all, to understand, to be there, to listen, and to drive it. So when I say drive it, it means that make it a part of everybody's purpose. Make empathy a part of everybody's purpose. I don't think that the only the leadership is responsible, for empathy. I feel empathy should be a purpose for everybody, because sometimes I see that you have senior leadership that is so good, okay, and they're so nice to you, they will respond to you, they will even acknowledge your mails, or your if you approach them, and then you see people down the line, they just brush you off. They don't even respond, they don't even care, that you've written to them. So sometimes I feel it's not only the leadership that we hold the whole responsibilities. People even in the mid level and down the line, it has to become a purpose for everybody. So when we say way, from top down, sometimes it has to develop even from down. Because what are we cultivating, right? Basically, even for a plant to grow, the roots have to be strong. So if we lay that basis or the foundation right from the time you start working in an organization, that empathy has to be a part of your system and your process, then later on, it becomes a habit, right? Anything that you do in life finally becomes your habit. Like drinking coffee in the morning becomes a habit. So these habits then, when once empathy becomes a habit, when you started from the very first, your basic foundation, once you become a leader, automatically it becomes a habit in you. So that's what I feel in modern day. That's how we have to learn about empathy and how we have to process empathy in the organization.
We have a very interesting question, and it's connecting to yesterday's impact economies topic, and also the future. Like Sinfong is extending it to the nation, like how, for example, countries can be led, and how important it is empathy in a culture, right? What can you say to this point?
Yeah, it is so, I think, again, I don't like to talk about this word, so I'm not going to say the word, but the situations in the past 18 months, right? What has it taught us about the political leadership, right? We really don't want to get into the nitty-gritties of how politics runs, because that is why it is called politics, right? But what we want to say is leaders. Are they really, people focused, or are they self-focused? And what happens in such situations is you see that leaders sometimes they really lose the focus of what they want to do for the people. right? And that is why Malaysia, which was really doing so well, suddenly in middle became so bad because of the political agenda that happened, right? And we all are aware what happened. And because of that, again, the surge went so high that from where we were just 1,000, it suddenly became 15,000 to 20,000 people getting affected, right? So I think leaders, political leaders are people that should really have some training or some coaching on empathy, because they really need to understand. So many people were homeless, so many people lost their jobs, like both partners lost their job, husbands as well as the wives. They had children at home to take care of. The online school, the laptop purchases, the Wi-Fi, the internet was so much of an economical burden on people. And then, of course, I do know that at least here the government came up with white flag, but sometimes it was quite, what I say, humiliating for so many people to come out and say yes, to wave that white flag and say I'm really in need. But who put you into that need? Who put us into that situation? So it is very important for leaders to understand that part of empathy, because we don't put ourselves into that situation. It is the whole economy of the country that finally puts us into the situation. And that's why you have so many unemployed people and so many people really wanting to know what is the next, thing for them. What's their next step in life?
Yes, we will not go into the political details,
Yes,
but yes, there are the responsibility which all leaders all around the world we have now.
yes,
There's a big change coming up, so it's kind of like the the decision making time now, whether they
right,
wanna
yes,
they wanna get more empathetic like New Zealand did, or they wanna just go
yes,
for far away and not get into this. But let's not get political. It's just
yes,
like kind of like a theory that we are talking about here, and it's more about the way of living, more about the
yes,
mindset, more about how to help people and how
correct.
to go further together to the future. So what's the next step for you in this purpose of yours? Are you coaching already leaders about empathy? Is it part of your work, or how do you put this into action? What are the tools that you are using?
So it is a part of my work, Andrea. So I think I gave a lot of free sessions during the pandemic, because I felt it was very important, and I felt this is not the time to charge for such courses. But just so I think we did a lot of talks. Basically 1 hour, 2 hour sessions with organizations, with colleges, with universities, on just building your emotional resilience during these times. And how leaders should really have the sense of empathy, and how during these times there were so many leaders who really showcased that. So if you really do a global survey and you really find out, you will see that all the top most companies, the leaders really stepped down to see how their people were faring. Really went into, some leaders even went into the homes of people to find out whether they were really having the sufficient means to provide for their children and provide for themselves, whether they were able to sustain this whole period. So I think empathy by itself grew on a really huge basis during this time. And I think it also brought to mind to a lot of leaders that yes, we never ever knew the difficulties or knew the problems our people are going through, but this really gave them an eyesight into what is really happening beyond the office. How are people really living in their homes? And that is why yes, we did do that. We gave a number of free classes and free sessions for organizations, whoever wanted it. We had even put it out on LinkedIn saying that yes, we are doing this, if you want you can book your time. So we did that.
That's beautiful. And at the end of the conversation, I think the last thing that happened, I mean, what's left is just how people can reach you besides LinkedIn or besides anywhere. What is your preference? How can people
I
reach
think
out to
LinkedIn
you?
is the best. I am very much active on LinkedIn. On Facebook, to an extent, but LinkedIn, yes. I go on LinkedIn every day. So LinkedIn is my social baby, I can say. And so if anybody wants to find me, I'm always there on LinkedIn.
That's perfect. So, guys, Simfong or Anis, if you would like to reach out, you just see Cheryl's name here below the screen. And please make sure you reach out. Just write you have seen her at the GES 2021. And Cheryl, at the last note of this conversation and finishing up our interview, what would be your message to the young and the wise to be bold together?
I think the young and the wise, I always say we all have to work hand in hand, right? And I think we all have to understand each other and adapt to each other, right? And I think the young need to learn values, that the older generation have lived and how it has really made them successful. And the old need to learn the new technology from the young. Need to know that okay, we get held up, we get stuck on sometimes because they are the ones who are really learning it. So don't shy away and say, oh, I don't want to learn it, because there's no specific age to learn anything. You just have to expand your knowledge, and I think it's very important that we all try to work in tandem with each other rather than go against each other. So I think it's a beautiful world when the young and the wise and the as you said, are bold together, and I think that's the way to go, that we learn from each other. The learning never stops, no matter what age you reach, right?
That's true. That's true. Thank you very much, Cheryl. It was an insightful session. We learned what is empathy. We now can differentiate. Hopefully, you can, audience, if you were listening, really. You can differentiate what is empathy and sympathy. Why is it important in your private life? Why is it important in leadership? And why is it important for a culture or a country? And why is it important for the future? So learn more about it, read more about it. And if you need help, then reach out to Cheryl Stella so that she can give you an in-depth training, or she can give her insights to you. Thank you very much, Cheryl. It was amazing
Thank you,
to have you
Ananya. It
here.
was amazing. Thank you, and have a lovely weekend. And I hope to catch you maybe on our networking session. We are having it
Yes,
tomorrow,
yes,
right?
the Halloween party. Exactly.
Yeah. So
See you.
I'll
See
see you
you.
at the Halloween party tomorrow. Yeah.
Bye bye.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you for watching, guys. Anis and Simfong. Thank you very much for being so active.